witches.
Hi, hello. Welcome back.
Yes, today is the Science of Witchcraft. So, I got this book and I was super excited about it, and I'm less excited about it now. What are you doing? Okay, sorry. The cat was trying to pull something out from under the closet door, and I thought that he was trying to poop. So, I just had to. Anyway, the Science of Witchcraft. I
Now
got this
almost
book.
had to start over.
Yeah, we almost had to just shut it off, restart. It's The Science of Witchcraft, the truth behind Sabrina, Maleficent, Glinda, and more of your favorite fictional witches by Meg Hafdahl and Kelly Florence. They also wrote a book called The Science of Women in Horror. It's not what I expected. When I went in, and you can tell who wrote which chapter because they have very different writing styles. One of them assumes you know what the story is about. The other one explains the story. They're very different.
It's just a little all over the place.
Yeah, but there were still some really interesting things in there. We're gonna start with the Wizard of Oz. They have it split into 7 sections. And the first section is the origin, so like some of the first film and literature with witches in it. And then it goes to Witch as Other, which is like about like witch trials and things like that. Section 3 is fairy tales. Section 4 is the witch as a monster. Section 5 is covens. Section 6 is witches on television. And section 7 is witches in love. Today, I only got through section 1 and 2. And I have quite a list of books and movies that I want to check out from reading this. But this actually kind of reminds me of the Mystery of Life podcast that we are doing a guest series for, because it seems like one of them is very skeptical of witchcraft and like putting a lot of science in there, like, oh well, what actually happened was this, and the other one is very like whimsical and excited by the ideas of different things in witchcraft. So I still recommend the book. It's still really good so far. I'm only on like chapter 6 because it's separated into sections, and then those sections are separated into chapters. I think I actually just finished chapter 7. But a lot of these I had not heard of. Bro, you would just want to be on the podcast tonight, don't you?
He's a star.
Oh my gosh. Get cats, they said. It'll be fun. So, The Wizard of Oz, we're starting, obviously, one of the most famous witches in literature is Miss Elphaba. But we're starting with The Wizard of Oz. It talks about Wicked as well, but they use a definition for witches that I thought was a really good, and I'm using definitions in big quotes because it's not really a definition, but they call it women whose embodiment of femininity in some way transgresses society's accepted boundaries. They are too old, too powerful, too sexually aggressive, too vain, or too undesirable. That quote was by Jess Bergman from A Literary History of Witches. And that's kind of where they're going with it and talking about the witches and the origins. Because if you look at Wicked and you're looking at Elphaba's origin story, she was just too powerful and too smart, and that's why everyone came to get her. I mean, that's loosely why.
Right.
But this one was written by the one who I was like, she's very scientific about everything. She was talking about different how do I explain this? Different medical conditions that could cause green skin, because we're talking about, the Wicked Witch of the West, or Elphaba. Um, One medical condition is called hypochromic anemia. And it can cause a distinct green to the skin and nausea and like a bunch of other things, which is
Is that like
crazy.
similar to eating too much like food with keratin in it and you get like an orange tint to your skin?
Maybe it's something to do with not having enough of a certain cell in your blood. I didn't look into the medical condition any more than what she had in the book, but it was something to do with like not having a certain amount of a certain type of cell in your blood. Yeah, listen, that's all she talked about. There were also other medical conditions, like if you have multiple organ failure, which obviously Elphaba did not have multiple organ failure because she was walking around being a badass.
Yeah.
So that's clearly not the problem. Contact with copper, when it like oxidizes or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And then the use of certain drugs. So that's probably similar. That's probably similar to carrots. Um, Scarlet and Polly, everybody.
I know. Oh God, I gotta do something about that. Hold on. You continue. I'll be back.
Okay. Okay. So that was hyperchromic anemia and the medical conditions. Um, then she goes into talking about scrying. Um, and of course, scientists claim that scrying, which scrying is like when you look into water or a mirror or a crystal ball, and go into like a trance-like state and see things. Um, and while you're seeing things, um, scientists think that it's like just delusion or wishful thinking, that you're just seeing what you want to see. But participants reported strong emotions while scrying. And I feel like sometimes that's a little bit what it is. Like scrying is used for manifestation and things like that too. So sometimes you are seeing what you want to see because you're going to manifest it into happening.
You know,
Um,
I am interested in scrying as like how do you do it? Like, do you just look at
yeah.
things or what?
I feel like I would struggle with scrying much like I struggle with the word just left my freaking head. When you just sit there and you're like,
Oh,
oh,
meditate.
meditating. I kept wanting to say manifest, and I knew that wasn't the right fucking word. Um, so I feel like it's the same type of thing. Like I can't focus that intensely or that long on like one thing. So
My brain doesn't shut down. Everyone's like,
no,
well, it gets better over time. And I'm like, I can't even do it for a little
right?
bit. I mean,
So
I'm sure if I practiced, it would work, but
the best tip that anyone's ever given me for meditating is to just, every time you catch yourself like thinking, to stop and focus on your breathing, which I also struggle with sometimes, because when I focus on my breathing gets out of whack, and then I'm like like it's interesting. I don't know. But it is something I want to get better at, like meditating, because I feel like meditating goes into so many different parts of the
I think
practice.
it's, yeah.
So, um still in, now we're back to the Wizard of Oz. We were in the Wicked for a little bit. Now we're back in Wizard of Oz. Um, in the novel, I can't remember if this happens in the movie or not, but in the novel, Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Lion and um, the Scarecrow are walking through a field of poppies right before they get to Oz. Um, and the smell of the poppies makes them fall asleep. Um, and then they have to get the help from the field mice to get the lion out of the field, but the Tin Man and the Scarecrow don't fall asleep because they're not organic beings, whatever. So there is some science behind that idea. um you can't just smell a poppy and get high or fall asleep. That's not how it works. You actually have to take the seed of the poppy and like cut it open, and do something with it, and then it becomes an opiate. And then you have to either ingest or inject it. Um, but this was probably put into that book, fun fact, because the time that this book was written, which was like
Wait, this book
1939?
right here?
No, the
Oh,
Wizard of
Wizard of
Oz.
Oz book.
Yeah. Um, the Wizard of Oz was written in 1939. Um, when around the time that this book was written, opiates, or wait, that might be when the movie came out. But in any event, around that time, opiates were really popular. Around the time that he wrote the novel, opiates were really popular, and they think that's probably where his inspiration came from,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is kind of interesting. Little tidbit. That is all about the Wizard of Oz. The next one is Sleepy Hollow, which I don't know if anybody knows the story of Sleepy Hollow.
I
It's about
enjoy
a
that one.
town, yeah, a town that was like bewitched, and there was lots of supernatural occurrences there. One of those, probably the most famous and the one that you see the most often, was the Headless Horseman, which is, I think it isn't the Disney version, the Headless
Ichabod
Horseman.
Crane.
Yeah, that one's
I think
about
it's
the Headless
Ichabod.
Horseman. Ichabod
Yeah.
Crane and Mr. Toad or something like that.
Yeah, so it's two of them. It's about the Headless Horseman and then like a whole other story. It's kind of like how
Yeah.
they did Fantasia, where they did like
Oh, like
three
multiple little.
stories in one movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a hot minute since I've seen that one, so I couldn't remember. And then the more recent one was also Disney, I think, but it was just called Sleepy Hollow, and I think it was Johnny Depp that played Ichabod Crane.
Yeah, that was a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah. Um,
Now
but
that
yeah,
was a
that
good one. That kind of scared me a little bit.
it's been a hot minute since I've seen that one too, but yes, that one's better. I mean, they're both good in their own way, but that one's better, I think.
Yeah.
But so humans obviously cannot live without their heads. Although, um, there have been some studies done that show that the head can live without the body and even speak and form thoughts for like up to like 28 seconds, I think it was. So, like, in theory, if your loved one was just decapitated, they could still speak to you for the next 28 seconds and get their last words out, which is really creepy. Like, just
I
imagine
don't know
like
how
your
I
loved
like
one's
that.
disembodied head, or anyone, it doesn't even have to be a loved one, just a disembodied head speaking to you. It's very Madame Leota.
It really is.
um, but there's also there is some truth to the saying "run around like a chicken with its head cut off." Um, and in fact, one chicken who they named Mike lived for 18 months after decapitation. This is where I said we were going to go off on a tangent, because personally, I feel like this was really inhumane. Like, they fed this chicken with an eyedropper through his neck, basically, because he didn't have a fucking face, because his head was chopped off. And they kept him alive for 18 months and went on tour with him to show him off. Yes.
That's fucked
It.
up.
I feel like it's super fucked up and inhumane. I don't remember exactly when this happened, but it was obviously years ago.
I'll look
um,
it up. What'd they call him?
uh, his name was Mike, the chicken. Mike the chicken. He ended up dying in a hotel while he was on tour, which is so fucking disturbing. He was in
Mike the
Colorado.
Headless Chicken.
Chicken. Yes.
He
Mike the
died
Headless
in
Chicken.
March 1947.
Yeah. Yes. So apparently this happens because part of the cerebellum and the brainstem, not the whole brain, but specifically the parts that you like need to stay alive, in
Hmm.
the chicken are like nestled in the back of the neck. So even if you
And I
cut
think
it
he only got
off,
his face cut off.
yeah. So even if you cut off
Okay.
like part of its head, its brain is still in there. So like they kept him alive by using droppers, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they thought they were doing the humane thing by keeping him alive, but like he didn't have a fucking face, like no eyes, no mouth. They were literally like force feeding him with a dropper, which I felt like was really inhumane. There he is. We should put that on social media.
God, that
She
poor
said no.
chicken. I mean, we
Turn
can, but
away.
oh my God, that poor chicken.
Yeah.
That's fucked
Yes.
up.
Yep. Mike the headless chicken. You know, it is. It that's a thing that happened. Um, and then also in Sleepy Hollow, when Ichabod Crane starts to get freaked out, he starts to shake. Um, and that's actually a thing as well. Like when it's a fear response because of fight or flight. Are you kidding me? What is going on with these animals today? Now mine is howling, but I can't bring him in here. Oy. Anyway, shaking is part of the fight or flight response because you have so much adrenaline coursing through your body, and your blood is removed from your extremities. So like you get cold and your body starts to shake. Um, which is also a really common symptom of anxiety. Um, and actually, my therapist, what I'm about to talk about, my therapist talked to me about yesterday morning, which was kind of funny to me because I read this last night. So if you get in a situation like that, whether it be anxiety or actual, like not actual fear, but like anxiety or fear, um, progressive muscle relaxation is a way to like counteract it or slow it down. Um, and you do that. My headphones keep telling me that my battery is low too, so that's cool. um, you do
We are
that
not
by.
having a good evening.
No, we are not. We are a mess today. Hot mess express. You do progressive muscle relaxation by slowly and methodically tensing and then relaxing different muscles in your body to help you relax. There's a lot of like guided meditations for progressive muscle relaxation on YouTube or I don't know where else, but there's a lot of them out there. And then obviously breathing exercises are good for that too. Um, they also explain in this book why we pass out from fear, because that also happens to Ichabod in Sleepy Hollow. Um, he passes out from seeing the horsemen, and that is from your fight or flight response because it pumps more blood to your legs and your muscles so you can run faster. And it pumps less blood to the head, which can make you then pass out, which feels counterproductive, body. Like, get your shit together. But
Right?
I guess
I
whatever
mean, whatever
works,
you got to do, right?
right? Um, and in the movie, and I don't remember this part because, like I said, it's been a while since I've seen it. But one of the women in the town uses wild arrowroot flowers to heal a cut, um, which is a real um, anti-inflammatory, I believe. And then they go into some other natural remedies. They actually talked to a an indigenous person who teaches about natural remedies at a college, I believe, or maybe it was a high school. I don't remember. Um, and one of the biggest ones was dandelions. Dandelions are, I know we think they're weeds, and a lot of people here just kill them or put weed killer on them, but dandelions are, I mean, you can eat them, you can make tea out of them, you can make syrup or honey, like all kinds of things out of them. But also, dandelions have been used in some studies to fight cancer. If you actually take powdered dandelion root, I mean, not you personally, you're going to want to have like a doctor or a professional do this most likely. Um, but powdered dandelion root has been used to shrink tumors, which I find incredibly ironic because We take literal carcinogens and spray them on our lawns to get rid of dandelions. And dandelions are something that are literally helping people. So it makes me kind of laugh a little bit.
There's
Um,
like, you can make a tea out of it.
yes, and that's the next thing. Dandelion tea, or powdered dandelion root, if you choose to take it that way, also can stabilize your blood sugar in patients with diabetes. So
Nice. Need something
now,
for blood pressure.
caveat that being said, I know blood sugar. Did I say blood pressure? I meant blood sugar if I said pressure.
I know. I said I need something for blood pressure.
Oh, okay. Oh my God. Did you hear that?
I did. That's why my dog's here
Sorry,
with me.
everybody. Sorry, everybody. He would be doing it if he were in here too, because I wouldn't be paying attention to him. Um, but it also stabilizes blood sugar, so that's an option. But that being said, do not just like quit taking insulin or some crazy shit, because that is not what I'm saying. Like, use
Talk to your
it.
doctor
Yes.
about a more holistic outlook or thing.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, you could probably do it at the same time, but like,
Right. And it might help, like, you not need as much insulin, or, something. It might, I don't know, might help your, what is that, your pancreas?
I think so.
Um, Another thing that is found in nature that also helps people, it's like a natural remedy, is stinging nettle, which I had recently been told I should try nettle tea for my personal allergies. Shout out to Allie at Sigil.
So, if is nettle tea, I mean, okay, so it's good for allergies, but what if your allergies are plant related?
I don't know.
Doesn't
I
matter?
have some of my allergies are plant related, but like I think it's an anti-inflammatory, so it still should help.
Gotcha. Okay. Because sometimes
Um,
when I like smoke weed or something like that, I feel it in my nose because
right.
it's fucking plant.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think because you're drinking it as
same
a
with
tea, it's
alcohol,
different. Like, I don't know.
maybe.
Um, so I bought some nettle tea. I have not tried it yet because I want to get some local honey, because that is also supposed to help with your allergies if you eat local honey, because it has pollen from the plants around you in it, and it's supposed to help, I don't know, somehow your body fight off that or not be allergic. I don't know. But I'm going to try it because my
I think it
allergies are so
also,
ridiculous.
right. And I think it also has more natural sweetener in it.
Yeah.
So you don't need to have as much of it because when I used honey for, I guess, like tea or something like that, I had to use a ton of it and it had a lot of sugar in it. Um, but for the one that was like more natural from like an actual like hometown kind of farm, I didn't need to use as much of it and it was more healthier because it was, I wouldn't say lower in sugars because like it's sugar basically, but
Right.
it was better sugar than the processed
Yeah.
stuff that you can get at Target or Walmart or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So I'm excited to try it. The farmer's market is tomorrow. So if I have time, I'm going to stop there and get some local honey and make myself some tea and try that out just to see how it goes. Stinging nettle is also not drinking it, not like the tea, but like the actual plant is supposed to be good for arthritis and joint pain. This girl, or the woman who was the indigenous woman who was talking about it, she works with the Lakota people.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and she said when she was growing up and she played soccer, if she was having like joint pain while she was, playing or something, after her practice, her grandma would tell her to go like run through the stinging nettle field, and where the plant would like scratch her skin, it
Hmm.
like healed her pain, I guess. Um, I've never tried it, but could do it. I don't know. Um, And then the last natural remedy that she talked about was hawthorn berry, which is supposed to help with heart health and is used sometimes post surgery to help the heart muscle heal and strengthen. Now, there are some over the counter like hawthorn berry capsules that you can buy. However, those have so little actual hawthorn berry in them, they're not as effective. So if you can ethically source the real thing, that's better. But you got to do what you can with what you got. So, you know,
And if you
excuse
can't,
me. Yeah.
then oh well.
Yeah. So that was all about Sleepy Hollow. The next one they talked about was Season of the Witch, which I have never seen. I think it was a movie. Um, but there was still some cool things that they talked about. They talked about dream interpretation
Mm-hmm.
because that happens in this movie, I guess. They didn't talk a lot about what the movie was about. Um, but the dream interpretation, they gave a few different things, like teeth falling out typically means that you're feeling powerless in a situation or powerless to help yourself in a situation. Um, if you're in an out of control car, then you're feeling out of control about life. Um, falling means you're hanging on too tight to something, and flying means freedom, like you're feeling free. Um, and then it went on into talk about the placebo effect and hypochondria, basically, because
Mm-hmm.
you can think yourself into an illness. And
Yeah,
not just like a mental health illness. You can think yourself into a physical illness.
I feel
Um,
like that's something very
so like if you,
psych
I don't
related.
know, yeah, like if you just sit there and think like, oh, I've got a headache, like you're gonna get a headache. Like your brain is going to be like, oh, I do have a headache. Okay, I feel that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and the same thing with the placebo effect. If you believe you've ingested something, your body will act as though you have ingested it, which is why you can trick people by giving them mocktails and they will start to act drunk if they believe that there was alcohol in there. They believe they're getting drunk. In this movie, um, the woman, she's becoming a witch. So I do remember a little bit about the story. She's becoming a witch to get rid of her husband, who is like abusive and controlling. And she wants to have more power over her own life. So in the movie, someone gives her what she thinks is a joint. Um, it's not. It wasn't actually weed, but like she starts acting like she's high when there was actually nothing in the thing that would have made her high. Which is why they go into the placebo effect and talk about like um the power of thinking in your brain and the power of suggestion and what you can make yourself believe,
Mm-hmm.
which is super wild. Um, and then they say at the end, did Joan get rid of her husband and regain confidence because she became a witch? Or was it because she believed in herself finally? Like she finally believed in herself and became confident. And so she was able to get rid of
Maybe.
her husband because she ends up killing her husband in the end. Yeah. That's how she gets
Oh,
rid of him.
I was gonna say,
Spoiler alert.
like, I was gonna say maybe she got, what's the word? Her husband wasn't supportive of her, and then she got rid of him because she didn't get support, and then she did that. But never mind that.
Yeah, no, she got rid of him, got rid of him. He's gone.
Okay.
But I was kind of thinking about that too. Like, it's kind of the same as like manifestations. Like, if you start to, or even mantras, like if you start to tell yourself something over and over and over and believing that it's going to happen, then you can make it happen. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of is the same thing. Um, then, okay. So that's the end of the first section. The second section is witches as other. Um, so the first book in this category is called We Have Always Lived in the Castle. They don't really talk a lot about what the story's about, but it's about two sisters who live together. One of them was like, basically, I wish I was a werewolf, blah, 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 blah. And there was like a poisoning that may or may not have happened that caused a family tragedy. But it's more about being a woman and being a woman by yourself than it is about like brooms and spells and things like that. This one talks a lot about the Salem witch trials, which I'm not going to get super into because I'd like to do like an actual episode or series on the Salem witch trials.
Yeah, there's a lot to do with that.
Yes. But then she goes on, they interview Stephanie, I'm probably going to butcher this name and I apologize ahead of time, Stephanie Widovic, who is a witch lit professor. She's a professor at some college. They don't say where, but she teaches a class called Witch Lit. Which what? I think phone's just died. What is life? Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna keep talking then while I find my other pair of headphones. So in this Witch Lit class, she talks about a bunch of different books about witches that she reads with her class. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
um, so she reads The Crucible, Carrie, by Arthur Miller, Carrie's by Stephen King. Then she reads Tituba, the Black Witch of Salem by Maurice Condé. What in the hell?
Man, today has just been Murphy's Law.
I just see you laughing and talking, but I don't know what you're saying, and I'm so mad right now.
Oh, dogs barking in the background, the cat in the way, technical difficulties. What? I tell you. Well, anyways, just gonna talk while she's floating around there. So as you can tell, neither one of our significant others are here. So we have needy puppies who need all the love and attention. And we are struggling with time and all that good stuff. So I had a little woo in the background. But anyways.
Oh my gosh, you guys. I can't find my backup headphones. And my new ones will not turn on plugged in.
It's fine. I'm just enjoying the view. Look at that little baby in there.
I love that you're still talking, but I can't hear you.
Of course, I'm still talking. When am I never not talking?
Oh, wait.
Hello? You're gonna sit on your cat.
Okay. I've turned back chaos. Move. I've turned back on.
Hello?
Oh my gosh. What is happening?
Hello?
No,
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you again. Ah!
Oh, that shit is so good.
I can just keep talking and not hear what you're saying back.
True.
Let me see here.
You have the opportunity to turn off your
Okay, hold on, wait.
headphones. Hello.
I have come up with a solution. It is not the best solution, but I can hear you now. Let's just hope that they can't hear you.
I was just saying. Oh, probably. I was just saying that we have needy puppies and our significant others are not here at the moment to take care of them. And today has been Murphy's Law, apparently. So
For real. If it can go wrong, what the hell? Where are my other headphones?
I was
They should be
just.
in this desk, like in the back of this desk, and they're not there. Anyway, if you're still here after all of that, um, there were a few more books on this list. Like I have, there's a few more books and also some TV series and stuff like that. But like some of these, like I marked this page in the book because I was like, I want to read some of these. Um, we Have Always Lived in the Castle, which is the book that we're talking about now, is by Shirley Jackson. The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Um, it says by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa. So I don't know if that was a book first or if it was just the series that it's talking about, but that's on here.
I don't know,
Um,
maybe.
White Oleander by Janet Fitch, which I remember reading when I was younger, and I don't remember it being about witchcraft. I remember a lot of feminist themes though, so maybe
Mhm.
that's it. Circe by Madeline Miller, which is phenomenal if you haven't read it. The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Then she said she also teaches a lot of poetry and short fiction by authors like Sylvia Plath and Carmen Maria Machado. But um, the last book, the last nonfiction book that she says she tries to encourage, she doesn't require but encourages students to read, is Waking the Witch: Reflections on Women, Magic, and Power by Pam Grossman. So I added like most of these books to my to be read list, much to Brittany's chagrin now that she's listening to this. Um, but surprise. Um, then she's talking to this woman, she goes on to talk about um, how there's been like a feminist reclaiming of the word witch. Um,
There has been, that's for
and I'm just
sure.
gonna read this whole quote. Huh?
I said there has been, that's for sure.
Yes, and I love it. And this, I really like this quote from Stephanie Weidevick, so I'm just gonna read the whole thing. Because it says the word witch has certainly gone through a feminist reclaiming, as have words like crone or hag. I think over the past few years, politically speaking, we've seen such an attack on women's rights, in addition to threats against movements surrounding Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ rights, that the witch, in all of her rage and protectiveness, started to show her face again because she knows what it's like to be hunted, to be oppressed, to have to fight for the survival of herself and her sisters, her brothers and her friends. She knows what it's like to be targeted, to feel unsafe, to be tortured and cast out, isolated from her people. When history repeats itself, as it always unfortunately seems to do, I think people, myself included, are taking solace in her name form and energy in order to feel fueled, safe, and ready to fight for their rights and the rights of those around them. Which I thought was really like a powerful way to say that. Like the witch never actually goes away; she just kind of resurfaces when needed, which I thought was cool. She also goes on to say that like although she's saying witches don't have a gender specifically, like anyone can be a witch, non-binary, male, female, however a person identifies, they can all be a witch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in 1968, there was a political movement formed, and the anagram they used was witch, which stood for Women's International Terrorist Conspiracy from, and I love it. But they fought for women's rights, black rights, and supported the anti-war movement. Oh my God. Get a husky, they said.
It's fine. You're also cutting in and out from sometimes.
Cool. Cool. Awesome. Well, congratulations, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Um, and that's the last thing I had for that book. Then the next thing is Black Sunday, which is a film. It's an Italian Gothic horror film. Um, it is about Asa Vida. I don't know. I don't do Italian. Um, but it starts out she's tied to a stake and her fate is determined by a row of men in hooded robes. It's the 17th century in Moldova, and like witches everywhere in the world at the time, she's been sentenced to death. And at the time, this was a really kind of a gory movie, but it was also ahead of its time in that she wasn't like repentant and crying and like, please don't kill me, I'm not a witch. She was like raging and confident, and she was very quick to like curse the people that were wronging her rather than um like just proclaiming her innocence. It was a
Yeah.
really interesting sounding movie. Um, it also talks some about like more modern witch hunts. For example, I don't know if anybody has heard of I think it's Helen Duncan, who was a medium. Well, she was a medium who like would host seances, and she was one of the ones that was really,
But did she fake it?
huh? Yeah, she was faking it, and
Did she fake it?
yes, um, she actually ended up being caught not only faking the seances, but she um, would make fake ectoplasm and like vomit during these seances. She actually made it out of cheesecloth, paper, egg whites, and toilet paper. But it was supposed to be
How do you
ectoplasm.
vomit up something without actively trying to get it?
I can't even. I don't know. Um, but like she made people believe that like this was happening, and like if some lady is doing a seance and vomits something up, you're not gonna look at it too closely because fucking gross. So she
Right.
had people believing this for a while, and she actually ended up going to jail at some point. Um, but then, so the Witchcraft Act of 1735 was supposed to like eradicate the belief in witchcraft, and it meant that it was no longer possible to prosecute people as a witch in English or Scottish courts. However, it was possible to be prosecuted for pretending to use witchcraft, or tell fortunes or anything like that. So, like, it's not illegal to be a witch, but it's illegal to pretend like you're one. What? I, what?
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. Um, but then Helen Duncan did end up going to jail, and she was put on trial, and it was like a big fucking show. Like, it was a big circus. The newspapers were like drawing cartoons of her as like a stereotypical witch. She ended up spending 9 months in the Holloway prison in London. And then when she got out, she continued to conduct seances up until her death in 1956. So she did not learn her lesson there. It's interesting. People are interesting. And the next one, it's I think this one's a movie. Yes, it's a movie called The Manor. Um, so the woman, the main character, is a widow and a grandmother. She moves into an assisted living home because she has a stroke and is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And when she gets to the manor, it's like it gives me Stepford Wives vibes. These old ladies at the manor are literally like killing younger women to basically steal their youth. Um, and for some reason, there's a tree monster. I don't know. They describe it as it's rooted in mythology that was made popular by J.R.R. Tolkien's end in his novel The Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's
That's
basically a
weird, but
dryad.
okay.
Like
Yeah.
they just call it a tree monster. But this movie sounds amazing. I love it.
I
Like
mean,
I want to see this now.
have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
I
okay.
want to see it though. So I'm gonna have to figure out where I can watch it. Although I'm sure it's
What's the movie called
The
again?
Manor, and it's starring Barbara Hershey.
What movie or what year was it?
It does not say, at least not on this page.
Okay, I'll just type in movie. How about that? Oh, 2018.
Oh, so that's fairly recent. Um, let's see here.
You can watch it on Prime.
Oh, perfect. I have that. I'll have to watch it and then
It's
let you know how
only
it was.
available on Prime.
Oh, okay. Well, even better. I have that.
I have Prime too, so
Perfect. And it was directed. The writer and director was I'm gonna say Axel, but it's spelled Axelle, so it could be Axel. Carolyn. Um, and she is talking about. They ask her why she wanted to tell a story centering around older characters. And one of the things she said was, I love the fact that the term crone used to mean a woman of wisdom, power, and magical abilities, but now it's kind of, or let me just continue her quote. And nowadays it just means old and ugly. To me, that perfectly encapsulates the shift in how Western society views the elderly, which I thought was really powerful too, because I feel like that's true. Like it used to be like the crone was the wisdom, the power, the one you turn to when you need help or assistance or guidance. Um, and now, if you were to call someone a crone, they would be super offended. So I feel like that's really interesting.
oh yeah, for sure.
Um, so yeah, that movie sounds super interesting, and I don't typically want to watch movies, but I want to watch that one. I also want to watch this next one. It's called Eve's Bayou. This one came out in 1997. Um, it's like a Southern Gothic, and
Ooh.
it just it sounds really interesting. Um, let me see here. Eve Batiste, which actually
It's got some high
she's played
ratings.
by, huh?
I said it's got some high
Oh,
ratings.
well, good. So Eve Batiste is the main character, obviously Eve's Bayou, is played by Journey Smollett, who she was in Birds of Prey. She played Black Canary. She was also in Lovecraft Country. I've never seen that, so I don't
Oh,
know who she plays in that. But she's also the sister of Jesse Smollett, who played in Empire and had a scandal not too long ago.
didn't he have like a scandal?
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't he have a scandal?
Yes, he did. Um, which y'all can look into that on your own because that shit was wild. But Jessie Smollett is a 10-year-old plays a 10-year-old girl who does not question her special abilities. Like her aunt Moselle, Eve is able to see the future through precognitive dreams,
Premonition.
premonitions. Um,
Oh,
early in the movie, she wakes up after having a nightmare about her uncle Henry, And through black and white flashes, we get to see her dream. Or her uncle Harry. I think I said Henry, but her uncle name is Harry. Harry dies in a car accident in the dream, and as soon as she opens her eyes, the phone rings, and her mom answers the phone and starts screaming and crying. Um, so the next scene confirms that Eve's dream was accurate. Her uncle Harry did die in a car accident. Um, so it sounds like a really interesting movie. It has a lot of like hoodoo and voodoo influences. It sounds like. If I'm wrong, correct me if anyone's seen it, but I haven't seen it yet. But also,
You
there's
know,
been a
I
couple
would be
other.
interested to see. There is such a delay. It's so funny. I would be interested to know, for those who actually, I guess, practice hoodoo and voodoo, how similar they are. Because you know how like some movies really just get it
Yeah,
wrong. I'd be interested to know about that, how similar it is.
yeah, it would be interesting. Um, there's a couple other like more famous real accounts of people having precognitive dreams or premonitions while sleeping. Actually, Abraham Lincoln had a prophetic dream where he was looking at himself in a coffin, like basically as a corpse, like looking at his own dead body, east room of the White House. And not too long after his assassination, about 2 weeks later, after this dream, his casket was placed in the east room of the White House. So, like, was that a prophetic dream, or did he have that dream and then because he had that dream and told somebody about it, they put his casket there? I don't know, but either way, could you could argue that it's still another one. So aviator Charles Lindbergh and his wife Clara woke to find their baby missing.
Oh, I heard about this one.
Um, yeah, and the whole world was like fixated on this tragedy. Um, and a Harvard psychology professor was studying precognitive dreams. So after the baby was stolen, he persuaded a national newspaper to run an article asking readers to submit letters if they had had a dream that in some way predicted what happened to the child. So of course, everybody and their fucking brother wrote letters to this guy, and he actually was disappointed with his of the people. Not 4%, only four of the people, like four people total out of the 1,300 responses, um, said that he was buried in a grave near the trees, like that they had seen that. Now, I don't know. This study is very hard to corroborate in any way because these people are just writing in random, like we don't know who they are. There's no control factor. Um, but then there was a more
You know,
recent
that
study.
actually.
Um,
Go ahead.
no, there's a more recent story um, where a group of researchers asked 386 participants about their experiences with premonitory dreams. Um, and they asked about participants' belief in the paranormal to see if there was a correlation. Um, and there was. So if people were more inclined to believe in the paranormal or spirit world or really any kind of witchcraft, anything like that, then they were more likely to have premonitory dreams. And it's kind of one of those things, again, where it's like, if you believe it's going to happen, it happens. So um, that's kind of where they thought that was going. Um, then there in this book, there's like these random little like fun fact tidbit things. If you're on the YouTube, it has like this really cool design around it. This one was really interesting to me, so I marked it to share. It says in Japanese culture, I'm going to butcher this. Don't hate me. Hatsuyume, or the first dream of the year, is considered to look into your neck and have a good year ahead. So, according to Japanese culture, the first dream you have in the new year is prophetic, and it's going to tell you about your year ahead. So, I don't know. I don't usually remember my dreams, but when I do, they're usually so fucked up that I really hope they're
I
not
remember
prophetic.
my dreams all the time. I sure as hell
I
know mine
used to,
aren't
but I
because
don't
I'll be
anymore.
sitting here dreaming. Yeah. I'll be sitting there dreaming about my mom who passed, and I'll be like, in the thing in the like dream, it's like she's gone off to work, and then I don't see her for a few years or months, and it's because she's been working so much, and then I accuse her of like abandoning everybody, and then I like wake up thinking that she's still alive, and like I could call her up anytime. So it's kind of traumatic to wake up from those dreams because then I like have to relive like, oh fuck, like
Oh,
she died. Um so those aren't prophetic at all. Those are just fucking traumatic, and I'm over them. I'm over it.
right. Oh, I hate that. Ugh. Here
So
lately, I've been having to use melatonin to induce sleep. So I have not been
same.
dreaming
I got
as
some nice bags under here. My
much.
head.
I've just been dead asleep. Right? Ugh. End of the school year sleep
Yeah.
tired is no joke. Um. Okay. Last thing. So the researchers and the data aren't giving much hope to believe that dreams can actually be prophetic. Even though they are in this movie. But dream prophecy is called oniromancy. And this has actually been around and recorded in different literature since the Bible. I mean, like, God spoke to the prophets in their dreams, or the disciples in their dreams. Um, so,
Hmm.
like, dream interpretation um, and dream prophecy or prophetic dreams have been around forever. Um, and ancient Sumerians in Mesopotamia, which is now, I believe, like Iraq, 100 BCE, recorded their dreams and used them as divination. So, um, there's even some Freud things going on with dreams, like finding our dreams to hold psychological significance. So, like, dreams are basically our subconscious, and dreams are like a thing. Like, they're not nonsense all the time. Sometimes they completely are, but a lot of the time they have some sort of, at the very least, psychological importance, if not precognitive. And then the last
Hmm.
thing, very last thing, I know I said the last thing already. This is actually the last thing. Um, they talk about, because it is like inspired by New Orleans, it's like not New Orleans, but it's in like the bayou, so it's in the southern area. They use tarot cards to read fortunes. Actually, in the late 16th century and on into, well, most of that century, they would just use like regular cards, like a regular deck of 52 cards to tell the future. Um, it was kind of like a parlor game for like Victorian. Is that Victorian era? I don't know. A long time ago, people. It wasn't until
I think so.
1791 that the first actual tarot deck was created. And it was created by French occultist Jean Baptiste Alliette. Um, and yeah, it just now it says the Victorian era, so I was right. It says eventually the rise of spiritualism in the Victorian era led many interested middle and upper class families to purchase their own tarot deck. And while the first decks were inspired by Kabbalistic imagery, there are now hundreds, if not thousands, of different styles to choose from. They're holding swords in their wings. Um, there are other types of divination used in that movie. For example, they read bones to like tell the future or to get answers. But it doesn't go into detail about that. I don't know much about that, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. But yeah, that is the first 2 sections of the Science of Witchcraft. I did not think I was going to talk about that for an hour. Well, didn't talk
That's
about it
funny.
for an hour.
Yeah. Well, we did
It
it.
was probably actually only like 2 minutes,
And
but it
so,
felt like
right. Yeah. But,
we did it.
well, yeah. All right. Well, stay tuned for part 2 of the Science of
Yeah.
Witchcraft. Until next time.
Bye.